This is DJ producer Colin Dale, also label boss of Abstrakt Dance Records, and you are listening to the Liverpool Connection Podcast, music and football episodes.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I'm your host Daz. This is my music and football episodes where I usually bring on a guest to talk about two loves of life, music and football. Today will be more about the music. I know some people kind of go, how come your guest doesn't know much about football? That's all right with me because I love music just as much. Today, I have got an absolute legend in the game. He's a pioneer of the UK house and techno scene. It's going on 40 plus years. That is insane, mate. Like, absolutely insane. He's the label boss of Abstrakt Dance Records. He's a DJ, he's a producer, and a vinyl junkie, just like most of us. I welcome to the podcast Mr. Colin Dale.
Hey, thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm good. We finally made it, mate. We finally made it. But me and Colin have been going back and forth probably for the past, 3 months?
Yeah, 3 or 4 months without a doubt. And it took time, but we got there in the end. And it wasn't all my fault as well, I must say.
Yeah, mine as well. It's one of those where, family happen. Yeah. We get sick. We miss deadlines, but we're here and we're going to talk pretty much your roots and influences first. As I always like to know, Colin, what was playing in your house as a kid, and did it influence your musical side?
Well, my parents are West Indian, Jamaican, and very much into music, especially my father and that. Had quite a large vinyl collection. And my parents were really into reggae music of all sorts, like 70s. I remember hearing lots of 70s reggae music of all sorts. And stuff like Motown was very good, very big as well. People like Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder and stuff like that. So those were my early kind of musical influences. I listened to a lot of radio when I was a kid as well. I was really fascinated with radio, which I think was what led me into my time at Kiss FM. And on the radio, I listened to all sorts. So everything from your general pop through to 70s rock music, which I really, really did like. Soul, funk and jazz I got into later on when I was about 16, 17, going clubbing. Yeah, all about soul, funk and jazz. My early influences are quite broad, really, but essentially lots of black music, soul, funk, reggae, and stuff like that.
Yeah, what my best mate back home is a family of West Indian, and let me tell you, they make the best chicken, rice, and beef. I swear to God, I like when my mum, not the best cook, more back in the 70s, it was like boil everything, so you basically take the flavor out of everything, and she, dinner's ready, and I was like, well, I'm going to me mate Mark's house, and I run halfway down the street. I could smell the cooking, and I would just like open that door, and they'd have a seat at the table ready for me because they knew I was coming. It was just the greatest. But the music that was coming out of their house as well was something, I never heard. I mean, I was a big into the jam, when I was young, the specials. But when I went over to their house, I would hear dub and reggae, and it's something that really stuck with me. The bass lines. Good God, it was just and when I remember when the Queen had the anniversary, and what we did as kids in the 70s, where they rope off the roads when the Queen's anniversary, and you had the big block party. The sound systems would come out, and just I would take it all in. And I'm glad I had a musical upbringing like that. Taking from different styles of music. Yeah, it just set me on a path of like, if music's good, it's good. Doesn't matter what label it is.
That's right. That's right. I totally agree in that, which is why, I mean, going back, I was really well known for playing like techno music, industrial music, and stuff like that. I mean, that's going back like 30 years. But now, I think what's happened over time is the music I play now. I have included my earlier influences, soul, funk, jazz, and stuff like that. So it's gone from being that industrial sound, which I was really well known for decades ago, into yeah, something which is more fluid. It's got soul, funk, jazz, even dub influences sometimes. So yeah, musically, I'm very, very, very open-minded.
Well, when did the DJing start for you?
Um, Well, when I was about 16, 17, my initial job, first job I had was actually working for Barclays in the city at one of their head offices. And, I come from a very, very kind of working class family. And when I started to make my own money, it gave me the opportunity to go out and really kind of check out the club scene. We're talking like early 80s, early mid 80s. And I got into it so much. After a couple of years in the bank, I left the bank and went to work in a record shop, much to my parents' dismay. But yeah, I went to work in a record shop. Back then, I had no inclination to really get into DJing as a career. It wasn't really looked on as a career back then. It was something that I'd done as a hobby. So I started going out to clubs. I started working in a really fantastic record shop, which was called My Price. And it was one of the early importers of early house music. We're talking about 85, 86. And yeah, it was working in a record shop that enabled me to get a job at Kiss FM. I knew Gordon Mack quite well, who was the head of Kiss FM. I knew him quite well because I used to follow him around at different clubs. Gordon, Paul Anderson, a guy called Steve Walsh, who's passed away now. And Gordon found out I had a great record collection, which enabled me to get a job at Pirate Kiss FM. We're talking like mid 80s, and that really is how the whole thing kicked off. And it was a hobby. It was just a hobby, a pastime that I enjoyed, and one that I really didn't think I'd be doing some 40 years later. So yeah, that's how I initially got into it. I was even so into radio. I was doing hospital radio, community radio, and stuff like that before I went to Kiss. And Kiss were massive in London as a pirate station. And, after a couple of years of doing shows on Kiss, my whole kind of career DJ wise kicked off, and that's initially how it really started. Not planned. It was more luck than planning, I've got to say, back then. And yeah, just really got into it, into dancing first and foremost, and got into the DJing later on.
What was your first turntable?
It was going back as a kid, 17, 18 years old. I was really, really into hi-fi as well. So my first turntable, I remember it actually, it was a Rotel. because back then I was into hi-fi. And then when I got into the whole DJing thing, I had some, they were called Cytronic, which is a very old brand. I don't think they're around anymore. And they made two turntables and a mixer in kind of one unit. And so, yeah, my first real DJ turntable was a Cytronic unit.
Yeah, I think like once you start kind of learning on, obviously techniques is the industry's, number one. But
Mm,
once you learn on anything that's not a technique, once you
yeah,
actually buy a technique or play on them, it's like butter, you know.
that's
It's
right.
and many DJs I've had on here have told me, they were on belt driven like
Yeah,
turntables, and
yeah.
sometimes they'd have to, rig the thing, either put a cup on top to move the platter,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, you're just going, wow, those were the old times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember those days very, very well.
Yeah, it's just I love the stories of just like, because DJing obviously has changed. You put on
Mm,
kind of a pedestal. You're in front of the crowds. Back in the day, the DJ was hidden. Because to me,
mm,
yes, it's great to see the DJ and kind of get that connection, but it's the music first for me.
mm,
It's not the whole theatrics and all that. You give me a
mm.
good DJ behind a curtain. I don't care what they look like, male, female,
Yeah. I
whatever.
mean,
It's
I
what
mean,
comes.
sorry, Daz.
Oh, I'm just saying it's what comes out of those speakers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to when I first started out, you rarely saw the DJ. And in fact, I remember one of the biggest clubs in London going back was Heaven in Charing Cross. And I remember playing there, and you couldn't even see the DJ. You could not see him unless you went walking and looking for him. You wouldn't find him, and I absolutely love that. Even now, I still love it because I'm not one of these DJs that perform as such. My performance is just playing music. That whole, and I do dance behind the decks because music makes you move. But that whole performance thing and that whole look at me thing doesn't work for me. I mean, for a start, I have bouts of anxiety. So sometimes the last thing I want is everyone looking at me. So yeah, I come from a school of DJs that were not seen, and the whole thing was about the music. There was no performance or look at me or and you speak to a lot of the older guys. I mean, guys that are my age, 40 plus, and they will all tell you. The majority will tell you that it's the music that does the talking. It's all about the music. I don't want people to come and look at me. I want people to come, feel the atmosphere and the vibration, and just enjoy the music. Really.
Well, that 100%. That's how it should.
Mm,
You got people like like I love Sasha and Digweed, uh,
mm,
because there's no. They put their heads down and they get on with
mm.
with the job,
That's
which
right.
in people dance, and the whole theatrics and stuff. Because there's a difference between to me as an entertainer, and David Guetta has even come out and said this. He's an entertainer now, not a DJ.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's basically there's entertainers and then there's DJs, and I agree
Yeah.
with him. That the dark and dingy clubs to me are the best ones. You know, the low ceilings, the sweat like coming off. You don't know where that sweat's coming from, but
Yeah.
it's got a good sound system and good DJs, and that for
Mm,
me is all I need. I don't need those pyrotechniques. I don't need the
mm,
visuals, because without any of that, if the music's shite, then off I go.
yeah.
You know,
You're absolutely right.
it's tough, and I mean, and for you, you know, with being in this business for 40 years, you've seen it change so much.
I've seen so many changes. In fact, when I first came along and started DJing, I was part of that whole. I'm sure it's the same for a lot of young kids that are coming along now and breaking through. I was one of those kids myself because when I came along, especially when I started playing house music, it was a whole new thing. Before that, rare groove was really big, soul, funk, hip hop, and stuff like that. So when I came with the house sound, and even more so when I started getting into kind of heavy techno and that, the whole thing was brand new. And I'm sure there were a lot of gatekeeper DJs that were older than me that didn't like it pretty much. And so, yeah, although I think there are major changes with the young DJs coming up, I also think it's kind of a natural progression. Things change, you know, and I'm really not into that whole gatekeeper thing. Because, like I said to you before, I was one of those young kids myself once. So I totally understand that they don't want to do things the same as maybe DJs from my era are doing it, and they want to do their own take on things. So I totally understand that things change. We've gone from vinyl to digital, and the whole social media thing. It's just I would say a natural progression because don't forget, I've been involved in the whole thing 40 years. And if things hadn't changed in those 40 years, there's definitely something wrong. So although I don't actually agree with a lot of the things that the young kids are doing, it's a natural thing. I'm an older generation person, and young kids do things that they don't want the likes of older people to get into. So I totally understand that. I'm not a gatekeeper in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have to look to the future, don't we?
Yeah,
And,
absolutely. Yeah,
and we can't all be, you know, 50, 60-year-old DJs and
that's right.
you know, because as for me, these new kids, just as long as they're working hard and they have the passion
Mm,
to
yeah.
DJ and they have the passion for music and they're doing it for the right reasons, not so they can, you know, have caviar and champagne and all that bollocks. You know,
Mm.
that's for the 1% of
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It is just for the 1%, and a lot of kids are aiming to be that 1%, which isn't a bad thing. But I mean, one dislike I do have is how the whole kind of DJ industry has become really kind of social media led, and people are judged more by how many followers they have instead of how good they are at their trade. And I mean, what makes it even worse is that I could go out and buy 100,000 likes tomorrow if I, you know, wanted to spend. And I see a lot of kids doing that, and that's one of the things I don't like. I like that a DJ or a producer is judged on what he does rather than how many followers they have on Instagram or whatever social network. That's one of my you know the drawbacks that I see currently.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the problem. Like promoters are booking these kids, they don't
Mm,
know what they're playing, and when they get to the club, they're playing. Promoters need to be
yeah.
responsible as well because they're part of this scene, they're part of this culture, and if they're booking these people that have 1.1 million followers but have never heard them DJ, and then when they come and just either play the wrong style of music for that night.
Mm,
So I mean that promoters are responsible as well. It's not all on. I mean, these young kids, they want to be heard. I get it. We were all like
mm,
that at one time.
mm,
But it's just put in the work and be passionate about what you do. That's with anything in life. If you want to be a
mm.
doctor, be a damn good doctor. Be a doctor because you want to help people. You want to, not for the money. A lawyer, same thing. Don't be a lawyer because you want loads of money. Be a lawyer because you want to defend people or
Yeah.
prosecute people. Just any walks of life. And I just think sometimes that is where it's like knocking your head against the wall with
Mm,
things. But I think things will change. I think promoters will start getting a bit more like I've got to get the right DJ for the right night. And same with the DJs, they'll go, I'm in it for the passion. But I wanted to know
mm.
early on, what was it about like early Chicago and Detroit sounds that really drew you to it?
Well, like I mentioned, I worked in a record shop um, pretty early on in the mid 80s. I worked in many record shops, but started doing so in the 80s. And I was, like I said, I was initially into soul, funk, and boogie music, and really into that whole side of things. And I can remember vividly when this house music started coming through. I could hear a link in between that and in between soul and funk and early house music, because I mean, let's not forget that the early roots of house music is kind of black. It's a black music. Lots of minorities into it, like gays and trans people and stuff like that. So I could see a link in between the music. And a funny story, but this is very true. I remember I used to do a soul and funk club with Paul Anderson and Bobby and Steve, both who went on to do massive things on the house scene. But I remember working in a soul and funk club with these guys, and I remember playing a track from the Fingers Inc. album, their first album when it came out. Which, if you listen to it, it's actually quite a soulful sound. But I got sacked from my residency there because they couldn't see I could see the link, but they at the time couldn't see it. And yeah, so I lost my job there, and yeah, like I said, I could hear a link, and I think the other thing that was very important is I could tell that it was a very kind of influential sound. It was new. There was actually nothing like it at the time, and that early house beat actually started from around 83 or 84. and came to prominence, I'd say around sort of 1987. But yeah, I definitely saw the link, and the crossover for me from playing soul and funk to playing early house music was, instant. Once I started hearing this house music, I dropped the soul and funk and literally, over a few months, transitioned over to playing early house music. Yeah, I can definitely see the link there. Even links to jazz music sometimes. So yeah, it was an easy crossover.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, hearing a guy called Gerald Voodoo Ray and
Mm,
88 State Cubic, I was
mm,
like, what is this? Because I
exactly.
want
Yeah.
more of it. Like, because it was, in the 80s, it was more like poppy, Wham
Mm,
and all that, and Erasure, Depeche Mode, New Order. And then all of a sudden, I'm hearing like these weird sounds, and they were obviously, the 808, 303, 909.
mm,
I didn't know that then, but it was something new to me, and I was like, I want more of this, but where can I find it? And
mm,
record shops, especially in the Northwest at that time, weren't pumping this music, weren't selling this music out. So,
mm.
you really had to dig for it, or you really had to know the record shop seller to
Yeah.
really find these records. Because, you know, as we all, I think we've all done it. You hear a song in a club, and then you go to the record shop on a Monday and you go, it sounds like this. You either get that
Yeah.
look from the seller going, are you all right, mate? You need me to call an ambulance? Or they go, I know what you're talking about. Here, try,
Mm,
gives you a stack of 20, and, maybe five of them you really, really dig,
mm.
But yeah, it was just that finding these records early on was really hard. I mean, obviously for you, if you work in a record shop, you're getting these imports and you're just going through and probably going, yep, 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 yep.
Mm.
But, I mean, especially I think for London, because you had yourself, you had Terry Farley doing
Yeah.
his thing, Danny Ramplin doing his, Paul
So,
Oakenfold. What was there like a not competition between all of you, but was there like were you running in the same circles, or was there respect going around at that time?
um, see, things were very, very different back then. Like I said, this was like it was a whole new movement, pretty much. And what I find about the DJs back then is, I mean, I might have been lucky, but I found there really wasn't a rivalry back then, because the whole kind of thing was just so new, and we were all in it together, and we were all exploring this new music together, and there wasn't any rivalry. And the other thing is, going back then, I got into house music really, really, really early, and I found that when it came to work, because there wasn't this kind of proliferation of the amount of DJs we have now. Back then, it was a lot more difficult to become a DJ. You'd have to have your turntables, your mixer. You'd have to be on top of sourcing new vinyl releases and stuff like that. So I think there was a lot more dedication and togetherness with the DJs back then. I don't remember there being any rivalry or why am I not at the top of the flyer or anything like that. Because like we spoke about earlier on, I think DJs back then, they were just doing it for the music. There wasn't this whole performance thing, or I don't think DJs were being lauded on like they are now. Well, definitely not. So yeah. Things changed.
Well, I heard you introduced like house and techno to Fabio.
Funny story about Fabio, actually. Me and Fabio caught up. I'm guessing it's got to be about 86 or something like that. And Fabio lived just around the corner from me, and we became friends and really hit it off. I introduced Fabio to going out to clubs and stuff like that. And he actually got into DJing because I used to be on a station called Phase One, which is a Brixton-based pirate station, which I used to DJ on. And then I remember getting a job at Kiss FM. So I said to Fabio, "Fab, why don't you take over my slot and do a bit of DJing?" Because he was a record collector back then. And it took a little bit of persuasion, but he got into it, and that was really the launch of his career. And as we all know, he's gone on to be an absolute superstar. So yeah, we used to kick about quite a lot early on in our careers in the mid 80s and that, and still very close friends with Fabio. But that's how we started to get into DJing. I kind of pushed him. You can do this. You can do it. I knew he had the skills. He was a great dancer as well back then. I was really envious of him. And yeah, that's how Fabio got into it.
Ah, see, I love stories like that. The
Mm,
things that you don't really like hear normally, in a magazine or something. So yeah,
mm.
I bet you give yourself a little pat on the back for that one for Fabio.
Yeah. Actually, I think pretty much every interview I've heard from Fabio over the years, he does mention that, which is great. To have been, a help and a influence to him, and he's an incredible DJ as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm,
And to see how far they've come, him and Groove Rider, and then they
yeah,
got the whole, orchestra of
that's
drum and
right.
bass. That
Ro-
that made me
Royal
proud.
Albert
You know?
Hall.
Yeah, it's just really, really cool, like how far, drum and bass has come and how far those two have come. It just
Mm,
makes you proud. Like I said earlier on, music to me, as long as it moves me and I'm passionate about it, I don't care what genre it is,
mm,
drum and bass, house, techno, breaks. I have it all down tempo, ambient, you know.
yeah.
I still don't understand how a DJ can only play one type of music. I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
you've got the house, the techno, tech house, you've got all that. I just don't
Mm.
understand because I think once you get pigeonholed as a certain type of DJ, that limits you.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, Daz, but I think the other side of the coin is that, especially to promoters, they want something. It's like a record label. They tend to stay in one lane and one style, and I think a lot of DJs are like that because. When it comes to getting booked, if you're playing lots of different types of music, it sounds better, but I think it makes it harder to get bookings because you're not pigeonholed as playing a certain style. So I think there are pros and cons to doing that. I mean, me personally, I play especially on the radio, I play everything from house to techno to electronica. I put some spoken word in there sometimes, and it's great because doing a radio show, I don't actually have to make people dance, but there has got to be some kind of connection as to what I'm doing in clubs. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I like when DJs are able to join the dots in between different styles of music. But no, and the other thing is, not every DJ can do that. You've got to be very broad-minded, and have a certain amount of skill to be able to do that. Which comes with the length of time you've been doing it and age and stuff like that. So, and the influences, of course, as you're going through your DJ career, you take on lots of different influences as well that you can use in your set. So, me personally, I think it's the way to go, to blend in lots of different styles.
Yeah, I'm the same. I said, I like a DJ that's versatile. I always have.
Mm,
Because that makes me want to see that DJ more and more. If one time
mm.
I go and they're playing some house, next time I go, but I would say people like Laurent Garnier, who can play anything. He'll throw some
Well, yeah,
absolute like jazz in there, and you're just like,
yeah,
holy shit. You know,
yeah.
this is what I come for. I want the DJ to not only make me dance, but to make me think as well. Like,
Mm.
how did you get from A to Z? Not just
Sure, yeah,
one line. I want them to take me up, down, like a roller coaster. Go through
yeah,
emotions.
yeah.
And I
I think
know.
that's
Go ahead.
um
Sorry.
yeah, that's about DJs that are able to read the dance floor, because you have to, that's where you get these up and downs and stuff like that. It's a DJ that's really good at moving the dance floor, because a lot of time as well there is an ebb and flow on the dance floor, and so you really have to be able to read the crowd, and realize that you're the one that's creating this kind of atmosphere for people. It's all about creating an atmosphere and a vibration for me. That's you've got these people in front of you, and you're just creating this space and vibration where everyone's kind of locked in together. Yeah, you're creating an atmosphere. That's how I look at it anyway. And you can use lots of different musical genres to do that as well. So yeah, for me, it's all about creating an atmosphere.
Well, and I think it also helps playing more than an hour.
Without a doubt. Me personally, I like three hour sets, and we spoke about Lauren earlier on, because I used to go along to play at his Rex Club in Paris, and Laurent was great. Sometimes he'd have me along as a guest, and I'd play the whole night. Playing 6 hour sets, it really isn't a problem for me. And the longer the set is, the better, really. But I mean, I'm sure, as you know, Daz, it's all about um, um, it's. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You might have to cut that bit. Um, what was the question?
Oh, longer sets.
Huh? Oh yeah, sorry. You're gonna have to edit that. Sorry, Dad. Yeah. I'm all for longer sets. The longer, the better. I play all night if you want me to.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Again, the 1 hour set, like I don't see the point in it, because by the time you've got going, that's
Mm,
it off. And again, this comes back to the promoters trying to stuff so many DJs in a night. I mean, for me,
Mm,
all you need is the opener,
yeah,
and the headliner. Because
yeah,
I've always said this on the podcast. The opening DJ is one of the most important people on the night.
yeah, yeah,
They set the tone. So if they're
yeah,
banging early on, it
absolutely.
just kind of ruins the night. You need a fantastic opener, and resident DJs, I don't think, get the just rewards that they should. They're the ones that are there every single night, every single week, doing their job, setting up for the headliner. I don't think they get the just rewards from a lot of people. You get a lot of clubbers that you know they'll all always ask, what time's the headliner going on? Oh,
Mm,
1 o'clock. Well, I'll be there about 12 then, or 12:30. So
yeah,
and it's a tough job, when you look up and you're the resident DJ or opener and you see five people, you know, that's when you really know you love what you do and you work hard
mm,
at it. And I respect, I've done it. I'm sure you've done it throughout your
mm,
career. You've opened and there's been nobody there. And when
mm.
you're about to get off and the headliner shows up, it just gets packed, you know. But keep
Yeah,
back and you keep doing it though.
yeah. I mean, going back to what you said about the hour sets, I think the major drawback in that is if you've got an hour set, and I see a lot of DJs do this. I mean, I'm even prone to it myself. Is that you just go on and you basically just bang it out. You've got an hour. There's not much time to be subtle or take people on a journey or from A to Z. You don't have time to do that. So yeah, it's just like a bang it out situation, which I don't like. But 1 hour sets are just like the norm now. I don't know how that's happened, but it is the norm, unfortunately.
What's your thoughts on like, club because every week you see clubs closing in the UK.
Mm,
It's the festival versus the clubs now. I kind of understand the festival part
mm,
because you pay, 250 quid to see 30 DJs throughout the weekend.
yeah.
And then you've got Clubland where it's a resident DJ and, maybe two headliners. So
Mm.
there's that balance. I know a lot of the kids like to go to the festivals because of the whole, they can have it off for, 2-3 days rather than one night. What's your thoughts on that?
Uh, it's a difficult one, really, because especially in the summer months, from like now April through to September, especially the middle of the year, I do a lot of festivals, and festivals tend to take over clubs, and it's been going like this for a few years, and I can see why it's happened. You get to see, like you said, 30 DJs. Festivals are usually in quite a big space, and there are other things to do besides the music as well. So I can see why that happens, but during festival season, clubs really do suffer. I mean, I see it myself all the time. If there's a big festival on near to a club, the club, it's going to be near empty. So there are pros and cons because I love doing festivals. I do quite a lot of them, but yeah, it's a shame what's happening to the club scene in well, not only in the UK. I think in on a world kind of global level that clubs are closing and suffering and yeah, I like we mentioned earlier, it's just one of those changes that's happened. Clubbers are a lot different now as well. to what they were like 20 years ago. Going back to back then, festivals were not the number one thing like they are now. But on the other hand, there are some fantastic festivals out there, like really, really good in great locations and stuff like that. So yeah, there's pros and cons to the whole kind of festival thing.
What's your thoughts on Ibiza and the way it's gone? Um,
I haven't done Ibiza for about 10 years. And I used to go to Ibiza in the 90s when they still had things like foam parties and stuff like that. And it was totally different to the Ibiza we see now, which I think has become very commercialized, very expensive. And last time I was there, you had to search very, I think, on a personal level, I had to search very hard to find like really quality, what I would call quality music. So Ibiza isn't really, it's not on my radar. I don't play there much. Like I said, last time was probably 8, 10 years ago, and I don't think I'm missing out by not playing there. It's not something which is on my radar.
yeah, I think the only place that I would actually go is Pikes.
Pikes, yeah, yeah. I think they have Matthew B there a lot, and a lot of other quality DJs. So yeah, it might be. It's probably one of the better places on the island. Pikes.
It's just changed so much. I mean, you look up at Ibiza and it's just brands upon brands, you know,
Mm,
and just it's lost its hedonism, from what it was in the 80s and 90s, and now it's very corporate, and how much
that's
money
right.
can I get from people. Um,
Mm.
I be, I've got to talk about Abstrakt Dance Records, and I've got to talk about Dance Radio Show. Um, when, when did you start the radio show?
Um, I started Kiss. I think it was about 1983. I started doing the Kiss radio show with the moniker Abstract Dance. So the name is something like 40 years old now. And the whole idea behind the term or the name Abstract Dance was that I just wanted to play music that was a little bit quirky, a little bit left of center, stuff you wouldn't regularly hear on radio. And that's how the name Abstract Dance came along. And back then, the show was called Abstract Dance, but I had to, it was a 3 hour show. So the first 2 hours were pretty much kind of clubbier sounds. And then in the last hour, I had something called Outer Limits, which was essentially music that wasn't fall to the floor or made for the dance floor really, and that started to become really popular. I'd play in the Outer Limits bit. I'd play like just stuff you wouldn't hear, really weird stuff, industrial. I was really into kind of really dark industrial music back then. Lots of ambient music was really popular, and I see the ambient, that whole kind of and ambient thing coming back now, which is great. So yeah, that's initially the how the whole name came about, and still now I try and play stuff which just isn't commercial and stuff that's little heard on radio stations. So yeah, it started 40 years ago. I done Kiss FM for 20 years. And then funnily enough, took left Kiss FM, took a 20-year break from radio and then started doing the show again on Mixcloud during COVID, actually. I wasn't going out and doing clubs. So I bought myself loads of camera gear and started doing the broadcast. And I think it's sort of like 6 years in now of doing the shows from home. So yeah, I restarted the radio show.
And with the record label,
Mm.
obviously, like I love the label. And one of my favorites is actually Please Stand By EP.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One of my early forays into music production. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just and it still stands the test of time today. Like
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you.
production is spot on it. And like when you started the label, was it more to put your own productions out there first? Because I know a lot of label owners go, I started out to put my own stuff to get heard, or was it
Yeah.
like I just want a label to get artists that I believe in?
Well, kind of going back to when I started the label, and especially around the 90s, it was kind of expected that if you were a kind of working DJ to have a record label. So initially, that's why I started it, is because I thought it was what was expected of me. And the label's been going for mm, 25 years or something like that. Initially, we were doing vinyl releases, and now we're digital only, but we might go back to making vinyl releases at some point. You there, Dad?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, vinyl is so expensive these days to actually make. So I understand, with a lot of labels, they're just doing it, digitally. Um, but that's one thing. Another thing I love about Bandcamp is
Mm,
a lot of, you go down the rabbit hole, you find so many different artists that you weren't looking for that start to go, oh wow, this is good. But a lot of it is you can actually get vinyl, from Bandcamp,
that's
um,
right. Yeah.
and they'll even put, where they'll get the support, the fans, they can put in an order to get specialized vinyl made, and I really like that because I think
Mm,
that's a really good connection, between the artist and the supporters, and
mm,
I think that's kind of a cool little niche, that they're doing right now. I mean, for me, again, as a kid that grew up in the 70s, there was nothing like running down to your local shop and buying the record, running home, getting that, plastic off, smelling
mm,
the brand new vinyl, but
mm,
reading every single piece of letters, of words that are on that
mm,
vinyl, because for me, I've always been like this, Colin, though. I've always wanted to know, like, you know, who designed the artwork, who did the
mm,
production, who did the engineering, who did the mastering. I've always been fascinated by that because
mm.
when that name comes along again down the line, then I know it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I follow those people and go, yeah, I know that's quality. But I know it's tough as a label owner to kind of, you know, do I do a vinyl release? Is it gonna sell, or you're gonna have it sitting in your garage for the next
mm,
20 years collecting dust? So yeah, it'd be
yeah.
great. it'd be great to see some vinyl from Abstrakt Dance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we back in the day we used to press loads and loads of vinyl, and I remember going back. Remember the last time I pressed vinyl, we had a quite a big release, and then for the follow up, I pressed a huge amount of records, and I remember getting myself in financial trouble because they just sat in my garage. You know, a few thousand, a few thousand records. I mean, it's funny talking about vinyl because I was a serious vinyl collector. I spent all when I worked in record shops. I'd spent all my money on it. Working on Kiss FM, I got loads and loads of promos. And I can remember back in the day, I used to have stacks of records that I didn't use. They were doubles, or I didn't like them, or whatever. And back then, I couldn't even give them away. I'd have stacks of records, and I'd call my friends up, come and get these records. I'm giving them away, and I couldn't get anyone to take them off my hands. And the other thing about vinyl, I still buy vinyl now, even though I don't play it out in clubs. I'm a proper vinyl addict, and amass something like 30 or 35,000 records, which sounds great, it looks great, but yeah, it took up a whole. They took up a whole room full of records. So yeah, yeah. So I sold loads of them basically because I just wasn't using them, and I wanted to give them to someone that would use them rather than I used to have them in storage. A lot of them. Some records I hadn't gone through for 20 years when I'd sold them. So and definitely the other thing for me is when I really got into DJing, I no longer because I was no longer really a record collector, and they were just tools. I bought so many of them that they became tools because you get these people that say, "Oh, this record's really special," blah blah blah. It really wasn't like that for me. I could get 50 new pieces of vinyl in a week. So when it gets like that, it's hard to become kind of attached to any one piece of vinyl when you've got tens of thousands. So yeah, I wasn't a record collector as such. They became just tools that I use for work, which so when it came to selling a large part of my record collection, it's actually quite easy because they were just tools.
Let me ask your opinion. I don't
Mm.
know if you've heard like what Richie Hawtin does. Like when he plays people's tracks now, he's actually made something, or somebody made like an app where he they pay the artist now for the tracks he uses when he
H-
DJs.
How does that work? They pay
I,
him to play his music,
no,
to
no,
play their music.
yeah, yeah, because he you know I read not too long ago like this is what he's doing. Every track that he plays, he's he's given like a royalty to the person that actually made the money, actually made the track.
I think that could be true because I think just going back a couple of years, talking about Richie Hawtin's sets, I think there is this system. I don't know if it's still in Record Box, but it used to be where if you're playing a record, there was this app that would tell you what the record, not Shazam,
Mhm.
it would tell you exactly what record was playing. I can't remember what it's called now. And I remember Richie doing that. So him being there being royalties involved, I think it's because he's doing it that way and broadcasting every track that he plays. People know exactly what he's playing.
Yeah, I just think it's a good thing because a lot of DJs, when you see their track list on like what is it 11001 track list or whatever, it just says ID 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 ID. From all these DJs who you don't really know what they're playing, but that was part of the thing back in the day, where you would watch DJs would have chain spotters, and chain spotters' heads were doing this around the vinyl
Yeah,
to
yeah,
try and
yeah.
find it, and then
I've
DJs
seen them.
would put tape over what was playing.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
Like,
me neither.
no, I don't agree with that. The DJ's job is to spread music, not to hide it and make it unavailable to people or stuff like that. I've never hidden a track in my whole life. No, I don't agree with that. My job is to spread music in as many places as I can. I'm not down with being exclusive and hiding tracks away from people.
As the way it should be.
Mm.
Any upcoming releases by you or on the label?
The next release is actually my brother Mark Dale, and he uses the moniker Dark Male, and he's a music producer. So the next release is from my brother Mark, which is called Time, and probably out in about a month and a half from now. And yeah, we have an after following that we have a release from Biz, who's a really great Australian techno producer. So yeah, we've got a couple of releases coming. The next being in about a month and a half from Mark.
Nice.
Mm.
Now at the start of the year, like with owning the record label, do you have a plan for the whole year, like with releases, or do you just kind of how you feeling at the time?
It's very much how I'm feeling at the time. We have no sort of roster or time frame to release tracks. If I get a good track, I'll release it. But that also means there are sometimes lengthy periods in between our releases, and that's solely because I just don't want to put out tracks just for the sake of it. I've got to feel really passionate about it. It's got to fit the label and the whole ethos and stuff like that. So there's no time frame or anything like that. If you send me a track and I like it, we'll release it. We haven't got like a stack of releases planned over a time period.
Well, mate, Colin, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I'm glad I waited. I'm glad we waited. 'Cause I just think, I built it up and built it up, and I'm glad in the end, because I think it's been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
I can still
Thank
see,
you.
I can still see the passion in you after 40 years.
I'm probably more passionate now. It's funny you say that because just last night I was thinking that I feel more passionate now about music than I have at any time. It's not something that's faded away. I was 63 a couple of days ago, 40 years in the trade. And I think if I wasn't passionate about it, I really would have given up a long time ago. There's still a lot of things that I want to do in the time that I spend DJing. And funnily enough, when I got to 40, I thought, I'll give it up. I'll give it up now. Blah blah. Thought the same at 50. I didn't think that at 60. It's something that I just want to carry on doing. It's my career, so I want to do it as long as possible. And when the time's right to give up, I'll know because I would have just lost the passion. But that's not on the radar at the moment.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear. I mean, maybe we'll see you at 80 DJing in a chair or
You
something.
never know. I mean, the thing is, if you look at a lot of the top DJs, in the top 10 DJs, people like your Carl Coxes, your Laurent Garnier, um, you know, loads and loads of DJs are doing it in their 50s and 60s.
Mhm.
Colin Hudd, who I spoke to a few weeks ago, I think he's in his 70s and still doing it. So I think that's where the whole DJing things changed. It's actually a career that you can a lifetime career if you want. So yeah, I'm here for the duration.
Well, I'll be here to listen to your records, listen to your DJ sets, mate. So
Fantastic.
you can go to YouTube. It's at Colin at DJ Colin Dale, and he's also got a SoundCloud. Same. Uh,
SoundCloud and Mixcloud. I
yeah.
use Mixcloud a lot more, but there is a SoundCloud channel as well.
So you can check out his music there. Wherever you listen to music or buy music, you will find the Abstrakt Dance records and also Colin's productions. Thank you again, mate. It's been an
You're
absolute
welcome.
honor. You are a pioneer. You're a legend. And again, I hope to hear your records and DJ sets for the next 20 odd years.
That'd be great, wouldn't
It would, yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, put your notifications on. And as I always leave you, please look after one another. Don't be arseholes. Stay safe and take care. Until next time, I'll see you later.
it? Cheers, Dad.